Today on This Week in Startups, we're going to try a first ever news roundtable with my brilliant partner, Brian Alvey from Weblogs Inc., now CEO of CrowdFusion. Jason Nazar is with us, who guest hosts here on This Week in Startups, and he also is the CEO of a company called DocStock, as you know. James Altucher, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, columnist, blogger of note, Twitter-aholic, is with us. And freshly minted CEO of Note, Tyler Crowley, at Steep Decline, is here with us, the CEO of Squeal. Let's do this.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to This Week in Startups. It's Friday, and instead of doing an interview program, a lot of you have been complaining that we've been skipping the news, or we only do one or two news stories. We do a whole show dedicated to news. So we just pinged a couple of the smartest people on the interwebs, and they're joining us today. We're going to run through a bunch of stories: killing elephants, Arianna Huffington bloggers, Google going social. We just got a ton of news to get through. Let me welcome our panel. Tyler Crowley is here, of course, CEO of Squeal.
Coming all the way from...
Yeah, you're on remote today.
Yeah.
Where you were in Helsinki, and then you went from Helsinki, you went directly to...
PP Islands.
The PP Islands. And that was quite a... How long does that take? You could go through Munich or something?
No, I had...
There must be a layover or something.
Yeah.
But where are you now? Where are you now? Because it looks like it's really got bad Wi-Fi over
yeah,
there.
I'm down in Costa Rica, and it's not so...
Right.
They're not known for their Wi-Fi.
I have to tell you, the audio in Costa Rica, fine.
Yeah.
Video, not so good.
Yeah.
Brian Alvey is on the program. Brian Alvey, of course, was my partner in Weblogs Inc. and childhood friend, and now is the CEO of the highly successful CrowdFusion, which powers TMZ. And can I say that other publication that you power, or is that not public knowledge?
The iPad app called The Daily?
Yes, yes. So two of the biggest
yes, you can say that.
publications. Brian Alvey, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Doing great.
And you're, of course, in White Plains?
No, I'm in Times Square. We have an apartment.
you're at the...
It's like an office in Times Square.
Awesome. So live from Times Square. James, of course, an old friend of mine from Web 1.0 when he was running a digital agency. Now, James, you've sort of got this whole commentator. I see you on Henry Blodgett's Yahoo Finance show all the time. What exactly are you doing right now? You're an analyst?
Well, mostly I'm in an angel in various deals. I'm invested in about 12 different companies. And I write for the Journal, I write books, and I'm focused on JamesAltucher.com, where I sort of tell my personal stories that have nothing to do with finance.
Yeah, and very popular. I mean, I see you on Business Insider like every other day with these great posts. And Jason Nazar...
Yeah, they syndicate.
Jason Nazar, of course, from DocStock, and who fills in for me. Thank you for filling in during the launch conference. Great job.
My pleasure. You had your hands full.
We did have our hands full, but hey, everything went well, so knock on wood, and next year will be even better. And one thing that couldn't even be better is Mailchimp, Mailchimp, Mailchimp. Everybody knows that I love Mailchimp and use it all the time. Any other Mailchimp users in the room? Do you use Mailchimp yet?
I use it as part of Eventbrite. They got a good partnership with them.
Right, the API connects Eventbrite to Mailchimp. So when you do your mailings, you use Eventbrite for your ticketing.
Yes.
But to do like more custom, sophisticated mailings, you use
Mailchimp.
Right. How many people do you have on the list there?
Close to 10,000 now.
10,000. And why did you select Mailchimp?
Well,
I didn't know that you used Mailchimp before this, right? Just to be clear.
Yeah. So I first got introduced to Mailchimp. I had heard of them and I knew about them. I hadn't used it as a standalone service because we have our own email servers. But I've started using it as part of its integrated partnership with Eventbrite, and it's worked out really well. Yeah,
it works so flawlessly. And you can manage your list of up to 2,000 subscribers for free. Send up to 12,000 emails per month for free. There's no contract, no trial, and the free plan is always free, and it's pay as you go. You can always tell which software as a service company is confident when they charge no contract, pay as you go. If you're forcing people into like a 12-month or 24-month contract, which some of these other email companies do. Did I lose my microphone, by the way? You can hear me okay? Okay, good. Sorry about that. I kicked my microphone. I'm getting so excited about Mailchimp. Anyway, they made this video of me where they cut all the times I'm going together, and they sent it to the sponsor. It's like they're very happy. Anyway, what was I talking about?
I thought that was a monkey down here in Costa Rica. Was that? Did you
No,
just
no,
make
no,
a
no, no.
sound? That was you.
Mailchimp does have an office in Costa Rica. That was me. Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, it's flawless. It works. It's now integrated with Amazon's SES, Simple Email Service System, and we use Mailchimp, of course, for the launch newsletter, which we sent a new one today about the received new Dropbox killer. So thank you to Mailchimp for sponsoring This Week in Startups and building an awesome product that we love, and that, hey, people like Jason Nazar use and say is great. Let's go right to the first story here. Brian Alvey, we saw some tweets earlier in the week from you. Arianna Huffington sells the Huffington Post for $300+ million. The bloggers get nothing. And then we see on the web, Kim Voyner, I guess, who was one of our original bloggers. She did Cinematical and Blogging Baby. Basically talks about how you guys at Weblogs Inc. Gave a little bonus when we sold it. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, Arianna never promised anybody to get paid. In fact, they knew they weren't getting paid and they were doing it for promotion. Yep. Does she have some obligation to pay people now all of a sudden, even though they went into it with the expectation that it would just be for promotional purposes of their blogging?
No, only karma. That's her only her only thing she has to answer for. So I did a post like a month and a half ago about this, and it was called Apologies to Arianna, and it was specifically about you and me. We sold our company for way less money.
Yes.
And we had no deal to bonus anybody, but a really smart guy that we knew, who was our only ambassador, Mark Cuban, had told you, don't just, sell this thing and make all this money, and you can't not, thank the people who got you there, right? I mean, they did. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. They did a lot of stuff. So we paid, I detailed this on the blog post, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars that nobody ever had a deal for, and it was all based on the number of posts they did. We were, I remember you and I debated whether we should even pay ex-bloggers, like people we'd fired, just to kind of like out of spite, here's $1,000 check, right? But we didn't do that.
Right.
And there were people who had done like 4 posts, and we paid them the minimum of like $500. But there were tens of thousands. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash for people who, and we actually had trouble.
I think there was a big difference, though. There was a big difference between you guys and the Huffington Post. And you guys did the absolute right thing, and it was a great thing. But the Huffington Post, they have something like 4,000 or 5,000 bloggers.
9,000.
Yeah, a gazillion bloggers, many of whom contribute almost nothing really to the overall page views of the company. I mean, it's mostly the celebrity bloggers who really contribute to the page views of the company, and they could care less about having a few extra $1,000. So I think it's just a difference in scope and a difference in model almost. You guys were very focused on building your bloggers as brands, and that's what created a lot of value for you, and you contributed to that. It's a little different for Arianna, I think.
Yeah, we rewarded paid bloggers. We paid them once the first time around. Then we paid them again when we sold the company.
Yeah.
She had no deal to pay any of these people, so she didn't reward them when she did this. I mean, and again, like you said, you're going to reward Bono for a blog post. I mean, he doesn't need it.
Right. And those bloggers knew what they were getting into. Look, I blog for the Huffington Post, and I know what I'm getting into. It's you try to get exposure, and if you're not Bono, you probably don't get any exposure.
But the issue doesn't seem to be going away. What do you think, Jason Nazar? I mean, there's obviously some contingent of bloggers who don't feel good about it. What do you think, Jason Nazar? Sour grapes?
No, I think there's the on-staff writers that write most of their pieces and link out, and then there's that left-hand column, which are all the celebrities and news columnists. And if I was in their position, I wouldn't expect that there'd be a bonus. I mean, you're talking about Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, those guys clearly and gals, they don't need the bonus. But what about these other sort of in-betweeners? They're not celebrities, they're not staff members. Would it have been too much to send them each an iPad or something? Or why do you think they didn't do it? It seems like such a trivial gesture.
I think you do something to say thank you, but I think the people you really want to give a bonus to are the ones that are in the office there for 14 hours a day, busting their ass to try to find every great article and make sure that they get to share in a little bit of the success.
Okay. Tyler, what are your thoughts? What would you have done?
Like he said, Brian's counter was exactly right, which is we paid them once, and then we additionally did something unexpected. Arianna didn't pay. She doesn't absolve her from possibly doing something unexpected.
Yeah.
So it's just human nature when you see somebody make a check with that many zeros behind it.
Where's my piece?
Where everyone wants to get their beak wet. So
everybody wants to get their beak wet. To be honest, if it had been us, I would have sent based upon the number of blog posts they did if they didn't get paid, I would have just added a 0 to it and sent an Apple gift card.
So here's, I think, maybe an equal comparison.
So if people did 50 posts, I would have sent a $500 Apple gift card or something.
Yeah. But let's say Time Warner in 2 years from now buys This Weekend for $500 million.
Yes.
Would you feel compelled to give every
Who told you about the deal?
Would you feel compelled to give every single guest a bonus for coming on the show?
Okay, that's a good. If it was a guest, no, because that's a one-time thing. If it was a host, certainly, and if it was a regular guest, maybe, is what I would say. So that, I guess there's I think that this shows. I think that there was probably a legal decision that went on here where somebody said, if you give them anything, you may be opening us up to they weren't paid and stuff like that. So I have a feeling a lawyer made this decision, and then everybody else just said, okay, we'll just let legal make the decision. And this is a really bad thing when legal makes your decisions and not on a human basis. What she should have done was, and they still have the opportunity to do this, they should have said, hey, now that the transaction is closed, we just wanted to say thank you to the writers, and we're sending everybody an iPad. We know it's just a gesture. Yeah. We appreciate it. We sent you an Apple gift card. We know you love Apple products, and thank you for your contribution. Let's go on to some more CEO.
We went through that too. A lawyer told us not to.
Right, and we were like, yeah, whatever, lawyers. When you start listening to lawyers and running your business based on lawyers, that's when you've lost, I believe. Nothing great has ever been done by a lawyer. Well, maybe some civil rights case or something. But in general, any corporate lawyer is going to be like, oh, you want to do something interesting? Don't do it. Shouldn't be your compass. But anyway, a lawyer should have gotten involved in this one. Earlier this week, I start getting tweets. How on earth could you use GoDaddy and like GoDaddy? I guess they were a sponsor of the program about a year ago. Yeah. And I've done GoDaddy commercials on This Week in Tech with Leo Laporte. And I've been using GoDaddy for 10 years. Lo and behold, I see this video. Can we roll the video, please? We'll take a moment for them to queue up the video. Some of you have already seen this. If you've seen it in the chat room, let us know I have seen this video, and let us know what you think about it.
Give a little graphic warning.
Yes. This video, thank you, Tyler, from Costa Rica.
So just to be clear, the insurgents that have captured Tyler, they're letting him watch these videos?
Yes, the insurgents said they will behead Tyler at the end of the program, but they just want to get the ratings in and have their mission heard.
Well, that's also nice of them to let him have YouTube.
Yeah, let him have it. So anyway, this is a very graphic video. And am I talking over the video right now? Okay, good. So here's the video. Viewer discretion, of course, advised. The guy in black is Bob Parsons, Dr. Bob Parsons. He was a pretty cool guy. He's like, he's a man's man. And he's in, I guess, Zimbabwe, was it? And he's explaining how troubled elephants here have, trampled these crops. There are these troubled elephants. I guess elephants are big and they can cause trouble. It makes sense to me. And it's extensive. Well, I don't know how extensive it looks. It's just some crops that have been, it seems like a lame reason to kill an elephant, that they stomped on some crops and ate some food. That's what elephants do. They eat food. And why not set up a fence? But then they go on Sunset. And obviously this was all done by their GoDaddy team, and it's video.me. So they own the domain name video.me. I've never heard of this domain name. So I almost feel like Bob launched this video in order to promote the video.me channel or the video.me service and said, hey, what's a great video we can do? And he said he's been doing this for years. And fast forward in the video, you're about to see, you don't see much actually. All you see is a couple of flashes and an elephant goes down. Okay, here it comes.
The music is a little odd.
The music is insane. It's like this.
Oh, yeah. They have AC/DC.
Yeah.
As a soundtrack.
Boom. Bob Parsons fires the first shot.
Right, because the elephants fired the second, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So now they've basically killed an elephant with a huge gun. They're making Bob Parsons to be like, what's his name? Hemingway. Like he's, and then so they got to put a picture of him, like with the dead elephant and a gun. I always feel like if you're going to kill some large animal, the fact that you did it with a gun is sort of like nothing to be proud of. If he did it with a knife, I would be like, hey, that's pretty dope. You took on an elephant with a knife. But it's not really like you're some tough guy to shoot an elephant with a big, huge gun. And then they show a bunch of villagers, bizarrely wearing GoDaddy hats, cutting up the meat. And they start playing some crazy song. What song are they playing, Brian?
It was an AC/DC song, I think. I don't remember which one it was.
Bells by AC/DC.
There we go.
Okay,
Yep,
so
Bells.
fast forward a little bit into the song. I mean, it looks like Dawn of the Dead footage, correct, Paisano?
When does Danica Patrick show up?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's what you're sort of and so and they're sort of justifying it. Hey, these hungry people need to eat or whatever. And he's come out and said, listen, these elephants need to be, the herds need to be trimmed. I did some research online. They're saying that this whole herd trimming is a front for collecting ivory. The elephants aren't always endangered, but they're certainly not. They certainly don't need to be trimmed. When you saw this, Brian, what did you think?
The video's way different with the AC/DC music in it.
Yeah, I don't know why we didn't hear the AC/DC music, but the music's like da-na-na-na-na.
Yeah.
Brian, what were you,
No,
you saw
so-
this.
so
What did you immediately think?
Yeah, I interviewed Bob a long time ago for the Meet the Maker stuff back in 2003 or so.
Yep.
Talked with him for a long time. I mean, he's like you said, he's a ex-Marine. Sure, he rides a motorcycle, big leather jacket, sponsors all the GoDaddy girls. His commercials are too hot for the Super Bowl, right? This one, even more out there. So I thought about it from sort of a business perspective.
Yep.
I mean, here's a guy. They went to IPO a few years ago. They pulled back out of that. They just announced, I think it was a week, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 days ago, that he's putting the company up for sale. He wants $1 billion. It's $1 billion for GoDaddy. I've seen stuff on them kind of rise and fall. They had a big deal with they were the registrar of choice for Matt's WordPress.com until WordPress became a registrar.
Yep.
So, so you see them have deals, lose deals, whatever. They count tons of cash. They want $1 billion. And then he kills an elephant, and everybody on the planet thinks he's, a schmuck now, when they didn't think he was a schmuck for GoDaddy girls in a shower too hot for the Super Bowl. So it's perplexing. It's
So you're saying, what did you expect? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's like Gilbert Gottfried making jokes about the tsunami and Howard Stern going, what the hell did you guys expect? It's what he does. I mean, remember the aristocrats,
Yeah.
So this is right up his alley, and it's not a surprise. And I'd love to know how much their business rises and falls based on this elephant video. I mean, I think it's a stupid thing, but I think it's totally in character.
James, your thoughts?
Well, a life is not just one moment. So whether or not, however you judge him on this moment, let's not forget he wasn't just in the Marines. He was a wounded veteran. He spent 2 months in a hospital recovering. He, you mentioned he pulled his IPO. I think it was 2004, 2005. I actually spoke to him the day he pulled the IPO, and there were very good reasons. He was protesting the way the SEC's accounting standards unfairly values companies like his that are enormous cash-generating companies, but he wasn't allowed to recognize that cash for years in advance. And so, again, I think the guy's always stood up for what he's believed in, and I don't know the exact circumstances. He says one thing, other people says another thing. Who knows? But I think the guy has had many achievements in his life and shouldn't be judged on just this one moment here.
Wow.
I use GoDaddy.
That is a really level-headed approach to it. Jason Nazar, what do you think? Is this something you would ever conceive of doing, like as a CEO of a company? I mean,
well, this is the first time I saw it.
Right.
The guy is obviously a master of building buzz and getting press. I don't think anyone can put that aside, and we're here talking about it. Which
like
I think
right about now, I'm wondering why I never killed anything and recorded it. I mean, can you imagine?
But this is for me
dragon.
this kind of close to almost like the island of Dr. Moreau. Which is, Apocalypse Now. It's almost a sense of like, this is getting a little eerie and scary.
It is a little scary, like to videotape the villagers ripping the meat and flesh from it in a GoDaddy hat. That's the approach I had with it, which this is weird.
Yeah.
It feels weird, right?
It does. I can't say that it encouraged me to want to buy more domains from them, but we're talking about it.
What about people in the South of America or something, not South America, but the South of the United States? Like, people who are hunters down there, this is now going to make GoDaddy like the most awesome registrar ever. And they're like the NASCAR domain. I mean, I think that this maybe works in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, let's not also maybe just, look, the guy's really successful. He's done a lot in his life. Maybe he just doesn't care or what other people think, and he's going to do what he wants to do. And this isn't some business thing, but just something he wanted to put out there.
Right, but he did tie it to the business.
He did.
Which is weird. Like I said, this is one of the things, I mean, I have this problem sometimes too myself, which is I do things that are funny or I think are funny myself, and I forget, like, oh my God, I've got hundreds of employees, or over 100 employees at a couple different companies. It reflects on them too, and I've actually had to pull back and not do some things I think are funny. Tyler, what did you think? I mean, in Costa Rica, how's it being received in Costa Rica?
It's weird because you're driving around in a electric race car,
right,
talking to smart people over sushi every day.
Right.
He's driving around on a Harley with a leather jacket, and he's surrounded by people saying, "You're going elephant hunting? That's awesome!
Right.
You should put that online." So to him, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, there's nobody in his circle saying, like, that's not cool.
Right, exactly.
Right. People in his circle are like, wow, that's cool. You got any more videos?
Right.
And yeah, I agree with that.
You're a product of your environment. He's surrounded by people telling him this is a very cool thing.
So is there some insight we take away from all of this, Tyler? Is there something that, anyway, you think about that.
Maybe it was just like a big metaphor in business of like hunt elephants.
Yeah, take down the big one. I'm also torn with hunting. Like I sort of feel like if you eat meat, you should have no problem with hunting, right? I mean, that's the nature of it. And I mean, if you're a vegan and you object to killing animals, but why, if they're eating the meat and you shot them, I don't have a problem with that. I don't think elephants are endangered. So if it was, if he shot something that wasn't, let's say he shot a deer, or an antelope that wasn't maybe as majestic as an elephant, would this be as big of a deal? I don't know. But what you
I guess I'm not going to be hypocritical about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I may go get a cheeseburger later tonight.
Sure you will.
I mean, if you're eating animals, but I think the difference is if you actually take your enjoyment and the pastime from shooting something that's alive, I think that's a distinction. I can't imagine that I'd ever say for fun, I want to go kill some live sentient beings.
Yeah, that is the weird thing about hunting. There is some like primordial, like I need to get in touch with this animalistic part of my being, and I need to kill something, and yeah, it's very weird, very weird.
He claims though that he was eliminating a problem for the environment over there. These elephants were trampling on crops or whatever. So again, there's both sides to the story, and I think the main thing I take away is this too shall pass. Like, this is the 5th scandal or whatever this guy's been involved in, and it's never affected him before, and it's not going to affect him now.
But are there certain elephants that don't trample? Are there certain elephants that kind of tiptoe around crops? I mean, isn't that what every elephant would do?
The scandals
well,
in
that's
the
why
past
it's in danger. They're trying to kill all of them.
The scandals in the past have probably worked to his advantage, why he's so willing to do something like this.
Yeah, see, I think that he probably thought this through and said there will be some people who will disagree.
Right.
But the majority of our customers will not care, and a whole new swath of people will be talking about GoDaddy, and when they think about domains, they'll go to it. Because when you're buying a domain name, you don't care. You just care about the price, and you care about the service. So now I got people emailing me, would you take them on as an advertiser again? And since I love the product, so does a person's private life as CEO, should that impact your business relationship with the company? Brian?
It's not his private life when people in Africa are wearing GoDaddy hats cutting meat off of an elephant. I mean, he tied it into his company, so you can't divorce the two. Right.
So if this was like an anti-choice thing, right, and you're pro-choice, would you take your business elsewhere?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are just taking a stand based on this thing. He identified this with his company. If you don't believe in this, but I mean, I'm one of those people who kills animals, but 6 people down the chain. When I buy it in a restaurant, I'm very, very removed. No animal. Well, I guess, an animal did die.
James, what are your thoughts? So should this impact his business? Should people not do business with him or do business with him based on this action?
Well, it's 2 different questions. One is some people will definitely not do business with him, but other people will because maybe they've never even heard of GoDaddy before and now they will, or they're happy he did this for some reason. So I think net, he's probably going to be a winner like he has on several other occasions where he's broken through the news in an unpleasant way.
Let's get to Google. A lot of stuff going on around Google. Google debuted +1 this week. It was not a April Fool's joke. They're putting a +1 button next to search results. You hit the +1 button. Now your social, and they're going to have these +1 buttons like Facebook like buttons on the web. You hit +1. When you do a search later on, if your friends have +1 something, that might come up higher. Social search, something we saw 5-10 years ago with Delicious and some of the work we did at Mahalo and some other players. Do you think this is window dressing, or do you think there actually is a product that consumers want in social search, Jason Nazar?
I think there's a product consumers want in social search. I think if you look historically at these kind of experiments Google have tried, they never become a predominant way that people really leverage and use the web. Even one of the most recent things, they put like a little hourglass next to the results to let people preview.
Yep.
And I can't, from everything I've heard, very few people actually use that.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you're as large as Google, you can kind of experiment and throw these things out.
Sure.
I would say social's definitely a way people want to search, but I wouldn't be thinking this is going to dramatically change the way people are using Google anytime in the short term.
So what would the consumer experience be in that? Give me the ideal, or have you thought about what would be the ideal consumer experience? I'm searching for X, and instead of just getting Y, I get Z.
Yeah. So I would say one of the probably most valuable, and if you take your Facebook graph, if you were doing a search online for a consumer good, let's say a book, a TV.
Okay, I'm searching for a TV.
Exactly. And you knew that other people in your social graph, friends, had seen that result and or bought it, it would give a lot of validity to it. So I don't necessarily need to rely on a review that you went to some site and reviewed a product, but I know that if you bought this product from this site, I'm going to feel more confidence that I might want to also.
So if I +1'd it, or maybe I +1'd it on GDGT or Blippy or Amazon.com, and somehow that was synced, and you saw that I bought the Samsung 55-inch LED, which I did, that is important information to have in the search.
I think it's important information from the consumer, and if you can surface it in the right way, I think they'd want to know it.
James, what do you think? I mean, Google is so far behind on social. Is this any kind of a game changer?
I don't think so, because for most searches anyway, people click on the very first item, on the first page. Will this change that a little bit? Of course, but at the end of the day, I do social search on Twitter and Facebook. I already have my venues that I do social search on, and with Google, I can't imagine anything that's going to change my behavior much from clicking on one of the first 2 or 3 items. Let's not forget that those first 2 or 3 items are there for a reason. It's because reliable sources are citing them. That's the whole algorithm for Google.
Right.
Will this make things a little bit different knowing that my friends are also citing them? Maybe, but I don't know if it's going to change my behavior at all that much.
Brian, what do you think? Is there anything here, or is this just a little experiment that will go away, like Google Search Wiki, which had a very similar thing, vote something up or down?
I'd compare it to Google Video. So I think it's lose-lose for Google. They were rumored to be announcing a giant social network around the time of South by Southwest a couple weeks back.
Yep.
That didn't happen. If they had announced it, people would have thought they were idiots for trying to do something that everybody else does really well, and they're too late to do it. So instead, you get this half-ass feature. It's like a social network, but it's embedded in our search. And then they lose for that because they're half-assing it. So if they don't go whole hog or they don't half-ass it, like either one of those lose, and the only way they get social search is they buy Twitter or they buy something. I mean, they're going to have to do it through acquisition.
It's a good point. It seems like they're constantly dipping their toe but never jumping in the pool.
Right. Google Video, buy YouTube.
And then you also had Google Buzz, which was a phenomenally cool product that actually had an implied social network long before Color was doing an implied social network, which was your address book. And it seemed like they launched that product, they fixed a couple of bugs in it, and they never changed it again. They never bought Buzz.com, and they never created a social network. Tyler, what do you think is going on over there with regard to social? Is it just a whole bunch of Indians and no chiefs running the show at Google?
No pun intended, I guess. That's more Yahoo anyway. It's really strange because they have so much data. They know the links you're emailing. And they could surface that in my search. They know that you and I are friends because of Gmail,
right,
and you're emailing out these links. Why don't I see your face next to those links that when they appear in search results? They could do stuff far more innovative, far more impressive. But they're pussyfooting with this Me Too after the fact +1 stuff.
Yeah, it feels like they just keep paying to see a flop, but they never want to push the chips all in.
Let's not forget also they have the Google URL shortener, which contains enormous social data from all of my friends and contacts. And they've only achieved about 3% of that market when they've gone all out. Like they've tried to create a product better than Bitly. They've miserably failed so far to date. I mean, Bitly has about 70% of that URL shortening market. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. They're just not going to know what to do with this data.
But I'd say, but let's be fair. I mean, it's different. When you're coming up in a business, you want to take big, huge risks. Sure. Google has the best business in the world. They have the best search results.
Yes.
They make more money from advertising than
best advertising tool in the world.
Yeah, it's the smartest advertising. They syndicate the results. there's a lot of disincentive to try to take big risks with that holy grail formula.
Right.
Because if you're the person that screws it up at Google, it's your head. And so it creates inertia to want to keep that.
Do they have to? Does the social network have to be tied to the search engine? I mean, Gmail's not. I mean, why can't they create a dedicated URL for a social network?
Well, I think what they're trying to figure out is how to leverage what you have. You don't want to go build something new. You want to see what's working and how to leverage it. I think where you've seen them be really successful in new products are things that don't have to be directly tied to search, like Docs. Docs is a wildly successful product that I think has people at Microsoft, admittedly worried about the migration of people's user behavior.
Sure.
And that's where they've been really successful.
I haven't opened Office in years. Yeah. I only open Office when I have an Excel spreadsheet that's too complicated for Google Docs. But now you have, let's see, Orkut, Dodgeball, Buzz, SearchWiki, +1, Google Profiles. I mean, how many little pieces of the puzzle are they going to release before they actually build one actual real product?
It's just not their DNA. The social part you can't quantify the way that they have to quantify everything as engineers.
So you're saying that because there's so many engineers over there and it's such an awkward group of people who are not social.
That are based on numbers. And Facebook is not done that way.
Let me give you
it's emotional. Social's emotional. They don't. It's not in their nature.
It's interesting. When I email somebody at Twitter or I email somebody at Facebook, I get a response immediately by email. If I email somebody at Google, I generally get a response after 4 emails. It is really a different culture. What's your experience with them? I mean, I know you went through the content farm stuff. Docs took a little bit of a hit, I think. I know Mahalo took a huge hit. Yeah. How are you dealing with that and dealing with Google and the whole content farm thing, just as a sidebar?
Well, as far as the recent algorithm updates, I mean, we get 25 million unique visitors a month, and the majority of that comes from search. So this has been 3 years in a row now that each new algorithm affects us, sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Right.
I think for the most part, they try to figure out how to make the best search results for everybody, and when you get a large portion of that traffic, you're bound to get hit. I think for the most part, they've been good about responding. I don't really deal with engineers.
Right.
I think Matt Cutts is a great evangelist for that company. And one of the things I will say is if you've ever seen him speak at a conference, it's literally like watching Bon Jovi get off stage. He gets mobbed, and he'll stay there for 4 hours and talk to every single person. I think, like most things, it's a personal relationship. If somebody knows you, I mean, people are busy. They've got their own stuff to do. If they know you and you've had a chance to meet with them and talk with them, they're usually pretty responsive.
Do you think this was a successful update? I mean, you saw a bunch of sites get downgraded, and then you saw something like eHow not get downgraded. Do you think they actually made search better at the end of the day, and how much?
I think first off, they had to do something to start.
Right, because the public outcry, the New York Times articles.
And they're never going to get it right. You're trying to please so many people. If you're a publisher and you get hit, you obviously think this is a horrible thing. And if you get the benefit, you're going to say it's great. I think one thing that they still need to figure out is this most recent update that they did took in a variety of factors that they said, like load time, the number of ads, a whole variety of factors that Matt Cutts talked about. And then what it did is, if it kind of didn't pass the bar, it seemed like a site as a whole would get penalized. And the problem I've seen is there's a lot of publishers I know that have all original content. And they've been penalized where other people that have spam content are ranking now above them.
I mean, I have those examples with Mahalo. I have examples of people syndicating our content illegally, ranking above us. It takes them, when they do a big update like this, it takes them 2 or 3 iterations to clean up, right?
And they usually figure it out.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will say is I think that they have, a lot of people throw out a lot of conspiracy theories like, oh, if you have AdSense, it's better. I mean, the one thing I can say is I think Google has a very good intent, and it's just going to take them a while to figure out how to get it right.
Brian, you have any thoughts? I know you have a lot of publishers you work with. Have any of them been impacted by this? What do you think about Demand Media getting a pass, or at least eHow, their domain eHow getting a pass? The other one's Lance Armstrong's site, which was doing some crazy spamming, didn't get a pass. What do you think?
I mean, I agree that they got to iterate and all that stuff. I don't have any customers that are getting hammered by this so much as really good friends. So,
James, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's interesting that all of these updates were timed right around the Demand Media IPO, where content farms were kind of getting a lot of press. So I think Google a little bit piggybacked off that and wanted to get in on the action of the hype that was surrounding this IPO, and they did it successfully.
So why would they? Are you saying they might have done that because they want more attention on their stock and for people to understand how important they are to the ecosystem? Or are you saying that they did that because they want to maybe keep their what would be the way to say this delicately, keep their dominant position over content providers like demand maybe in check? They try to send a message to demand?
I think they were sending a message to demand and to people who were a little bit worried about the concept of content farming now that demand was getting so much press. So Google wanted to make sure, with demand getting so much attention and the whole concept of a content farm getting attention, that listen, we're thinking about your search results. We're protecting you, the user. You're not going to be sucked into the content farms. Here we are. You have all the news about this IPO, but listen to us now. We're taking care of it.
Tyler, your thoughts?
To the latter, too. No, I would just say it's the latter. It wasn't that Google wants attention or something. I mean, if it's at the time Demand Media is IPOing, if Demand Media is saying we've cracked the code, we've mastered Google, I mean, Google's going to bitch slap you, right?
Right.
And that's what happened.
So the fact that Demand and those guys were saying that they had gamed Google was really the issue here.
It's just like Netscape saying they had gamed Microsoft. Okay, you can't fight the gorilla or the elephant, so to speak. They're going to stomp on you.
So I totally disagree.
Really?
No one publisher, and Demand Media is a great company, they're a big business, but no one publisher affects the way Google makes decisions. The fact of the matter is, everybody on the planet uses Google for search, and they've got a big responsibility. They got to provide the best results. And if you look at what they did a couple years ago, what they would try to do is solve problems for concentration of terms. So when people did things like search for online poker, there'd be a lot of spamming and scamming around that, and they needed to fix that. Now as the web evolves, more and more publishers are going after long tail terms.
Right.
And they have a responsibility to try to get the best results for long tail terms, and I think they're trying to figure out. But I totally disagree that this stuff that they're doing was to go after demand, because what demand was saying, Google's got to try to make sure that their users come to the site, do search, and click on ads.
I don't think what you're saying is inconsistent. James is saying you had demand saying they had a way to game the system, how to out-algorithm Google, and Google has to say, hey, by the way, you can't out-algorithm the people who make the algorithm. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
I think you and I have seen, this isn't the first time that Google has responded to the percolation in the SEO community, chit-chatting about whatever. We've seen them react to that more than once.
Yeah. Early this week, Zeit was slapped with a cease and desist. They are very much like Flipboard, an iPad personalized magazine. They were accused by 10 major media companies, including Time, Washington Post, and AP, of manipulating their content and stripping out ads. Like Pandora for news articles, Marshall Kirkpatrick, really smart guy, said if you use Flipboard, you should try Zeit because it's even easier to use. Brian, you and I dealt with this. New technology comes out, like RSS or the iPad. All of a sudden, technologists think it's a free-for-all. Let me remix other people's content, and I don't need to ask for permission. And if they don't like it, they can opt out. Have you been tracking this issue?
So I've been tracking it less from Zeit because I think they're getting, handled by the market forces, right? And the one I think is not getting handled is Flipboard with the $200 million valuation. It just baffles me. As somebody who talks to VCs and raises money, it baffles me. We're going to take people's content. Granted, some of it's social, but content. We're not going to show ads. We don't have any revenue. $200 million valuation. Somebody on the panel explain that to me. Like I said, I'm baffled.
James, explain it. How can a site that's scraping other people's content that they don't own get a $200 million valuation with no revenue model?
Well, I think Flipboard's going to have a big problem because you're already starting to see the content in Flipboard getting a lot flatter. Publishers are pulling out or blocking Flipboard. I'm actually very excited about the News.me product, which seems Flipboard-like, that's coming out of Bitly. It's already been favorably reviewed in TechCrunch. I think we're going to see some interesting things there, where I think they're working out arrangements with the publishers.
Jason, what do you think? Should people be allowed to just take the content and remix it because there's a new platform and nobody's done it yet and consumers want it? Or should they have to ask for permission?
I don't know the situation that well, but I can say as an entrepreneur, if you had to ask for permission first, nothing would ever get done. And you and I know that better than anybody.
Absolutely.
So this is probably the right process where you do first, can ask for permission later, and then you kind of figure it out as you go along.
Tyler, any thoughts on this?
I think this is an old guy's problem. I don't think kids care about Flipbook and the daily this or whatever. It's not how kids are getting their news anyways.
How are they getting it?
From everything comes through your friends and real
just
quick.
a URL you click on.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
So
you don't actively seek out news It just comes through your stream, is what you're saying.
I think you're going to have auto aggregation. It's not going to be through. You're not going to have to worry about these things 20 years out.
I can tell you, Brian will back me up on this, that I single-handedly destroyed the RSS reader business. Because when they started the RSS readers, they took Engadget, Gizmodo, et cetera, put it into RSS readers. We had full feeds, and we said the full feeds were for non-commercial use. And they said we're going to have an advertising-supported RSS reader, and they put ads on the top of it. And then they had our full feed, and they were selling Engadget and Gizmodo together. And we told them we'd sue them, and we'd block their site and promote their competitors. There is no RSS company today that is making money for an RSS reader, correct, Brian?
There's one. NewsGator still makes it, like corporate RSS, things like that, internal stuff.
What does that even mean, corporate RSS?
It's not ad supported. You're talking about aggregating content, like hedge funds need thousands of stories, right? So it's a corporate newsreader, corporate group newsreaders are out there. There's nothing ad supported. Bloglines was big when we were out back then.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist anymore,
Google Reader.
So yeah, I'll give you credit for that one. You even went after Opera because they were showing ads in their product, in an ad supported product. And you're like, as long as they don't target it against Engadget, against Autoblog, that's cool.
And they were targeting it.
And I think they had started targeting it, and you flipped out of them. Yeah.
Yes, I did. And one thing that you will flip out about is Trada. Trada, what an amazing product. I love when people laugh when I do the segue. That always means I did a good segue. Trada is a crowdsourced pay-per-click marketplace making online advertising very easy and fun for startups and entrepreneurs. Trada has more than 1,000, holy cow, search experts. They will create all the keywords for you and the ad copy, and you will not have to hire one of these people when they're very expensive and hard to find. If you are a paid search expert and you want to make a little extra cheddar on the side, maybe, go visit Trada.com and learn how Trada can help you earn extra income. Here's a new promo. From now until June 1st, if you sign up for Trada and spend a minimum of $3,000, which basically anybody who's doing SEM is going to be spending $3,000 a week or a day or whatever, your company will receive a free ad on Twist. Wait, what? I'm going to read an ad for you? So that means if you spend money with Trada, I will read your ad during the Trada commercial and say that you're a customer of Trada. Do you do SEM at your business, or with you have the new paid services? Are you experimenting with SEM on Dockstop?
Yeah, we're doing more and more of it. Yeah, so I'll be happy to start using Trada.
Yeah, I mean, SEM is really hard. I mean, it seems easy at first. Oh, I'm going to buy a keyword, but there's a lot more to it, right?
It's just a completely different core competency. So. Driving paid acquisition traffic to make sure an offer converts has a lot of different variables in it.
Sure.
And it's something that I think's a lot of times overlooked in Bay Area startups. Where we're just going to build something great. It's going to virally grow.
Right. We don't have to pay to get traffic.
But the majority of online businesses make all their revenue through paid acquisition.
And you have a $20 a month product now. All the documents that have been certified. So that's $240 a year if you convert somebody, right?
Yeah.
So you spend 50 cents, $1 trying to get somebody, $2, you could, I mean, it's expensive, but if you land somebody, it's $240.
Yeah.
I'm going to start selling stuff. I've decided, because I am tired of being Google's bitch. And Twitter's, and whoever's. Like that post that Fred Wilson did, like, I'm tired of being blank, don't be anybody's bitch, be your own bitch. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to have a product that people can pay for, so that I can get into the SEM funnel, and then I can pay Google and Yahoo through their SEM product.
So I'll tell you the one thing.
As opposed to SEO.
Everybody that runs a business that drives its customers from SEO says, oh, it'd be so great if I could buy traffic in and have my own channel.
And convert it.
And then everybody who runs a business that plays on SEO is like, oh, it'd be so great if I had SEO.
But what about having both?
Well, the folks that have both are just on an island living big right now.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. You and I are both in the same course. We did SEO for a while, and now we're going to SEM, and Trada is the best way to do it. Brian, do you do any SEM stuff?
I have a partner who used to be the CTO of Did It, and he had actually made SEM campaign managers and stuff like that, and co-wrote a book on search engine stuff, Craig Wood. So I'm one person removed from all of that. We don't do any of it ourselves. Our momentum is through reputation.
Got it. Hey, less dick in Twitter. The dick bar is dead. Nicknamed after CEO Dick Costello, who's a great guy, and he was so funny at this recent event I was at where he spoke. And he's a really great guy. He did FeedBurner back in the day with a very successful company, sold to Google. But maybe a little bit of an aggressive guy when it comes to monetization and product features. Certainly FeedBurner was aggressive in monetization. It was sort of the whole point of it. And they released the Dick bar, the quick bar, at the top of your Twitter clients. It puts ads. It puts the ridiculous trending topics like Fruity Pebbles was trending last week, or like it seems like every topic, at least here in Los Angeles, is black people do blank, or black people are scared of blank. Black people, a black person. It's like it's these sort of viral and it's all black people doing it. It's sort of like a joke. What do you guys think of the Dick Bar, it being removed, and then Jack, the original visionary, coming back to run product? This is obviously all related. Anyone?
The problem is when anything that gets viral to a huge community turns into Big Macs. It's just lowest common denominator pablum. It's just, that's what's going to happen. You're not going to get like breaking news happening or very rarely. I mean, when there is some kind of breaking news, like Elizabeth Taylor dies, okay, yeah, that gets surface level. It needs to have some level of curation in it, because otherwise it's just, it's
going to go down to the lowest common denominator. It's going to be
exactly.
Paris Hilton, fart jokes, and blank.
As it always does, and that's why everyone's so bummed about it. It provides no value. If they curated that thing,
right, it's sort of like the second level.
I would start using Twitter even more for news if somebody curated that thing as like where news is happening.
Take that massive flow of trending topics
right.
and maybe take out the dick jokes
right.
and the fart jokes.
My point about Flipboard not being such a huge concern long term is because more and more news is broken by the individual via Twitter or whatever, right, on a percentage basis. And that trend is not going to slow down. That's going to accelerate over time. And news agencies aren't going to have their stronghold on breaking news. And Twitter needs to do everything in their power to foster that transition. And they have that bar could be used in that way if somebody curated it. What's it going to take? Like a team of 3 people to?
Well, it would take a team of 3 people to do the entire United States, but it obviously is by city. James or Brian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I got a little bit. I mean, I not to cut you off there, but I like Dick was one of my judges. TechRun50 is a good guy. I like him. Twitter has 3 choices, and the 3 choices are never, ever, ever have any revenue. And as long as there's another investment round out there after this one, everybody's going to be happy, right? They all make their money. That would be a bad option. Another one is own the interface and put advertising in the interface. That's what they tried to do. And I think if we all shame them out of doing that, then they go for option 3, which is there's ads randomly mixed in with your tweets. I mean, I don't see any options besides those 3 if they're doing advertising, right? Don't do it. Do it in the interface or do it in the stream. And I got to say, it's going to suck more when they do it in the stream. So I would have left the interface alone. Let them have the dick bar. Bar.
So you would let them have a fixed ad unit at the top, which seems reasonable, and then maybe sell the paid Twitter. I mean, if Twitter sold a paid version for 99 cents with a couple pro features for iPhone without ads, it would probably sell 10 million or at least 1 million, right?
It still doesn't justify their valuation, but yeah.
Well, that's the problem with adding revenue to a product that is overvalued. James, what do you think?
I think they're obviously still thrashing around for a business model. I think they are eventually going to do promoted tweets in the stream. What I'm hoping is that it'll work a little bit like AdSense. That'll be somehow context sensitive once they have enough inventory that they can make it that way. So I'm hoping, I wouldn't mind context sensitive promoted tweets in my stream. I'm willing to put up with that, as opposed to a forced dick bar at the top of an iPhone Twitter app every time I log on.
I just think Twitter's got a bigger problem. I mean, we were just here, criticizing Google because they keep trying new things and they don't go far enough with it.
Right.
Well, guess what? That's Google, a massive organization. Here's Twitter.
Right.
It's still really a startup, and
they're so slow.
What new things do they do with that product? Put revenue aside for a second.
Right. No,
okay?
they did one interface change in the history of it.
What's changed in that product? And I really do think one of the
groups. Lists.
Which, all right, so lists.
Stagnant.
And the new user flow, which is you can click on stuff on the left-hand side and it opens up on the right-hand panel.
Those are 2 changes.
Nothing meaningful has changed to the user interface of the product. And I think eventually what's going to be their Achilles heel, put monetization aside, is they just do not iterate on that product quickly enough to keep people engaged in it over time.
But isn't the simplicity what got them where they are? The fact that it's so simple? Like, I mean, who else has gotten so many dumb celebrities to use a product so, fervently?
I think the simplicity and the ease of use was what helped blow it up, but that's not what sustains continuous growth.
So maybe simplicity to start and then maybe accelerate.
Guess what? MySpace blew up in the beginning because there was an error in their code that allowed for people to customize the background of their pages,
they could hack it,
which they loved.
Right.
And that was one of many things. But we can all agree that MySpace did not continue to iterate at a pace that kept people engaged in their product. And at some point, all the critical mass aside, people are going to say, hey, Twitter's not iterating quickly enough, and there's something else that provides me with just as much or more value.
James, you had a thought?
I don't know. I mean, Twitter is continuing to grow. The number of tweets per month is continuing to grow. You have guys like Charlie Sheen. The first thing he thinks to do when he's fired is go on Twitter, and then 24 hours later, he has 1 million people following him and retweeting him and quoting him. I don't think Twitter has slowed down yet. I just think they're trying to figure out what to do with all this growth. They're thrashing around for a business model. Eventually, they're going to have to do promoted tweets in the stream, is my guess,
it's
or
so clear they're
sell
gonna
their
do,
data.
Yeah, they're going to do TweetSense. And I wrote a blog about this 5 years ago. It's so obvious that they could tie what you're talking about in your stream. What keyword density do you have? Do you have New York City? Do you have LA? Do you have technology? Do you have fashion? And then just serve you customized ads in the middle of it. But the ads would actually be content. So if I'm a tech guy, once in a while, if I don't follow Microsoft or I don't follow Google, you could just throw a Google thing in there as a sponsored tweet. It knows I'm into tech because I mention Google and Microsoft all the time. And would I unsubscribe? No. Would I pay for a pro subscription? Yes.
It's better than the experience you're having now, which is Chicago was the trending word in Chicago yesterday. It's like, what relevance? That's just bad. That's just worse than an ad.
They do seem to. I think what happened was when, in the early days, they were so busy trying to keep the service up and running with the tremendous growth that they couldn't innovate. Then you put Dick in charge, and he's not a product guy as much, and you maybe iterate in the wrong ways. There needs to be some balance. I think Jack might be the right balance, bringing him back.
Well, Briz said himself, Ev never, is very slow to make decisions.
Yeah.
Dick is overly quick to make decisions.
Right. So Dick might be, he'll make a decision on the spot, and Ev might wait a month.
Correct.
Maybe there's something in between those two extremes. Right. We're coming around to the end here, into the horn. Let's talk about the bubble issue. Dow today, James, this is your speciality. We have riots and revolutions in multiple countries in the Middle East. We have a tsunami and an earthquake, the third largest earthquake ever recorded. We have a nuclear catastrophe. Clearly, it's being covered up to some extent. And you have a housing market that continues to decline, even though they keep saying it's bottomed. It continues to go down. Even Manhattan down 2% year over year. Yet the Dow is up, record levels for the past 2 years. Unemployment actually ticked down a little bit. We're down below 9%. With the fake number. What is going on? Is it a bubble? And in the secondary market, do we have a bubble? In the public markets, do we have a bubble? Are these two bubbles going to collide to make one giant bubble? Is it going to be the end of days? What's going on, James?
I think there's never really been a time when we haven't had lots of catastrophes going on in the world. Let's not forget, from 1980 or 1979 to 2000, we had Iran overthrown, Iraq and Iran at war for a whole decade, 2 Gulf Wars, Afghanistan. We had everything going wrong in the Middle East with tons of catastrophes happening in between, and the stock market went straight up. What's happening right now, though, is particularly special because the market crashed so hard and businesses slashed all inventories and fired everybody that was on the payroll that now it's still recovering. Businesses are still finally realizing, the world didn't end. We've got to start hiring people back because we have no inventories left and we need to make inventories. It's no wonder that temp workers are at an all-time high right now. Everybody started hiring temps, and now they've got to start converting that to full-time, which is what we're seeing. One other thing that's very important, Bernanke, using his printing press, printed up $600 billion. We actually haven't even seen $1 of that in the economy yet. Usually it takes 6 to 18 months for the Fed to have an actual effect in the economy. So whatever you're seeing in the market or the economy now is nothing compared to what we're going to see at the end of this year and all through 2012. So anybody who thinks there's a bubble now, this is just going to keep going straight through to the end of 2012 at least.
So Facebook IPO will happen at that time, LinkedIn, Groupon, perhaps Twitter if it can get its revenue act together. What impact will those incredible businesses with real revenues and extraordinary margins in the case of Zynga, extraordinary margins in the case of Facebook and LinkedIn, massive margin businesses, what's going to happen when those things get introduced to the margin? Are we going to have a NASDAQ 5,000 again, yes or no, James?
I think we are, and I think we're going to see. I mean, I know you mentioned Dow 15,000. I think we're going to start seeing Dow 20,000 and S&P 2,000. I mean, the excitement that everybody pulled their money out of the market in November 2008, they still haven't come back in. Grandma and Grandpa are never going to put their money back into the stock market, but we're going to see a whole new wave of investors come in when Facebook, Groupon, LinkedIn go public. Everyone's going to be excited. There's going to be a lot more M&A, so people are going to be looking for the opportunities to put their money in. I think, again, and like you said, there's real revenues, real margins, real growth, and we're only seeing the beginning of it. So I think we're far from the bubble stage. Maybe we can talk bubble again in 2016, but we'll see.
We have three entrepreneurs here of three excellent companies. What is your thought on raising capital at this time? Brian, it's been a long time since you did your A round. Are you thinking about doing a B round? What's the valuation going to be? How much are you going to raise? Are you just salivating at this market for startups?
That's a great question. So we're at, I mean,
and who's going to do it? And what meetings have you done already?
Oh yeah. So I'm going to tell you all of that, including my valuation.
Yeah.
Nice try. So no, I learned from you. You never stop talking to VCs, right? So people in the company are like, oh my God, you met with a VC. It's like, yes, it happens every Friday, every Monday. It's all the time. So we're raising. Like I said before, I'm kind of horrified at some of the bubble stuff that's happening. Some of the the flipboards that are out there. When I'm talking about stuff based on actual revenues and multiples, and other people are not. So a little bit of jealousy, envy, anger there. But thinking back to the bubble thing and James and your list, Jason, of all these companies, the one that I would invest in personally out of everybody that they mentioned was LinkedIn, and here's why. LinkedIn, explosive growth after the last recession, the last bubble burst, right? The crash. Everybody, out of work, had to put their resume somewhere. It's great. So if this is a massive super bubble coming, when it explodes again, LinkedIn's going to be there to pick up the pieces. Facebook, all these other things, not so much.
So more upside in LinkedIn, even though it's a smaller business.
Yep.
And so you are going to raise another round, you think, this year? I mean, it would be crazy to think that you wouldn't.
No, it's a great climate for it, and I get cold called by VCs. There are companies I've never heard of that have massive funds, and they're like, we had these 50
And you have
companies.
real revenues. You don't need to raise the round, so you're in a good position to do so.
We're in a good position, but it's a good time to get aggressive.
Nazar, your company's done tremendous, although you took a little bit of a black eye with the Google rehash, I'm sure. But you have two revenue streams now. I'm sure you must be highly sought after in the VC market. Are you going to do another round in this market? Is that what a smart entrepreneur does, raise money when the market's up like this?
I think it depends on what your goals are. So as a general principle, the answer is yes. And that's the feedback I got. One of the, Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn told me, whenever you have the ability to raise money as a venture-backed company, you should. But that's also with the point of view that you're trying to sell your company for $1 billion plus or go public. So in our case, for example, we raised $4 million. Last time we raised money is 3 years ago. We get approached every week by somebody that wants to invest in us. We've been profitable for some time now. But right now, we're not raising money. And the reason is we can do almost everything we need to off of cash flow. And I could probably go raise $20 million. But if you can do it off of the cash that you have, just because other people are raising money, doesn't mean that you should. Now, if you can meaningfully achieve a market result faster and prevent competition and get to that by taking capital, you always should.
Yeah, so if there's a reason,
you
need to know what you're going to do with that dry powder. You're not just going to say, I'm going to get $20 million in dry powder and just sit on it.
Yes, and I would say...
Maybe you have a use for 10 of it, but maybe you have 10 that you're going to sit on.
Yeah, I think it's just, I would stay focused on, what's your ideal outcome that you're looking for.
Right.
And if bringing in additional capital is going to help you get there faster and increase the likelihood of success, then yeah, do it every single time.
Speaking of huge, epic rounds, $41 million for Color. I had the CEO Bill on the program on Monday. He laid out a very compelling vision and basically said, Sequoia asked us if we gave you a little bit more money, would you be able to go faster? And they said, sure. So basically they raised their A and their B round at once, is essentially the way I would say it. Is this, what do you guys think of the product? What do you guys think of the round? Brian, you're a product guy. What did you think of Color? And what do you think of the huge round?
Yeah, so I heard about the money, and I heard about sort of there's all the jokes about, they should have spent the $41 million on a product and all that. Haven't even tried it yet. Just, it's another one of those, that and Flipboard. They're on my list.
James, your thoughts? A bubble, no bubble?
Well, and you always have to be careful. So in 2000 or late 1999, when money was essentially free, I raised about $30 million for a wireless software company, And of course, I immediately spent it. I was the worst entrepreneur in the world in this particular situation. So my one advice for the color guys, again, without having tried the product, is try not to spend any of your money. So when all your VCs try to screw you over, 6 months from now when you've spent the money, you can at least say, hey, screw you, because we still have it.
So use that as leverage in the future.
Yeah,
you're not obligated to burn it the day you get it.
$41 million is a lot of money. You could stay in business forever if you fire everybody and just work out of your basement.
In some ways, what Bill
that's
Gross...
an extreme.
Yeah, well, that's what Bill Gross did. He raised $1 billion in cash up front for 10% of Idealab, and he's still going today based on that huge raise. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
He's having some success.
And having great success with it. Tyler, your thoughts on color? Are you still using it? Are you bored?
I am still using it, but the problem with it currently, and I'm not sure how they're going to overcome this, is most of the photos that I see, oddly, I see this photo a lot. I don't know if you can see this here, of people taking a photo of their drink. This is about the 10th photo I've seen.
Yeah, that's my Diet Coke, right?
Right. I took one of my own ice water. Joyce took one of her mocha. I don't know. People are trying to find a reason to.
And right now it seems like beverages.
Right now it's a beverage app, right?
It's a beverage app, beverage sharing app, actually.
Yeah.
It's the beverage. It's the implied beverage network, social network. It's the beverage social network. It's a social network for beverages.
Right. But I'm wildly intrigued by what they're trying to do. It's all the things that we were saying. It's very ambitious. It's got smart guys behind it. And I know these things take a lot of time. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. But right now it's a beverage app. Last story.
Staff departures from Engadget continue. We've seen like 4 or 5 people leave. We're seeing the blogs I'm just turning to the Weblogs Inc. show, but it's in the news. Brian, what are your thoughts? I don't have any inside information on what's going on with these guys, although I did offer them if they wanted to start up again, I would write them a check. What are your thoughts? You have any inside information? They're going to come work at CrowdFusion and you're going to launch an Engadget competitor?
That's such a good question. Another good one. I'd love to just end with no comment. But no, I mean, I've heard of different people speculating, and then I've actually heard of investors telling me where people are going. I don't know if it's going to turn out to be true or not, but it's fascinating. I'm surprised they stayed so long. The AOL way is a little bit horrifying, and no, they didn't all leave at once. There was a day or two in between some of them.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with the AOL way, and the AOL way, of course, is this 4,000-page document which has all kinds of highlights of Blocksmith, the software you architected and created and sold with me to AOL. Horrifying, how so? Unpack it.
Which, the AOL way itself?
Yeah.
So people ask, hey, CrowdFusion, are you going to go power stuff at AOL? And I mean, the simple answer is no. They bought my old platform. They have a great team there working on this stuff. So I'd say there's a lot of signals coming in and out of AOL about whether it's a turn off or a turn on. The turn off ones are stupid viral videos of senior executives coming out of bathroom stalls. I mean, those are just idiotic. The dancing things. Many decisions like that. The turn-ons, they have some good team members. Jason Shallon, I like a lot.
Yeah.
He went in there. He was, we knew him from the Blogger days. Speaking of Ev and all that. So this is, the AOL way itself. 2/3 bad, like Demand Media clone, but a couple of years too late. But it was, I'll tell you the nice thing in there was it was nice to see how far they've actually taken the platform. Because you hear so many people complaining they didn't innovate. You've been gone 3 or 4 years. Nobody listens to me. They don't add the features I need. No, maybe they didn't add the features the bloggers and the customers, the people on the platform wanted. But there's a whole lot of stuff in there about how much do we pay for this post? How much money did this post make?
What's
Some of the stuff
happen,
we used to have integrated.
What's going to happen to AOL? Now you got the Huffington Post consolidating blogs. Arianna's in charge. People being laid off, fired, things shuttered. James, would you buy the stock or not? James, are you there? I think we may have a frozen picture of James. Any thoughts on the content stuff going on over at AOL? You've been watching it?
Yeah. I mean, I think Tim Armstrong had to make a bet on doing something now that the legacy business is dying.
Yeah.
And I think overall, strategically, he made the right bet, which is let's get really good at content. You know that newspapers and magazines and television is getting disintermediated. It's all going online. I'd say at this point, it's really an execution play. Can they build content and a brand and a strategy to monetize it over time? I would say what they're doing right now is certainly not going to be enough to replace monopolistic subscription business based upon access to the
absolutely
internet.
Not. Yeah, nobody expects them to.
Yeah, but I think of all the bets they could have made, I think this is a clear vision, and I think that they're...
Is it a Hail Mary? I mean, does it feel like, buying the Huffington Post was just this massive Hail Mary, like, oh my God, we got to get something done, we're 2 years into this?
I think the Huffington Post was a great buy for a number of reasons. And, I'm a huge political buff. I go to Wall Street Journal, Drudge Report, Huffington Post every morning.
So it's in your workflow?
It's my workflow, and I'll tell you why. If we agree with the analysis that in the next 5 to 10 years, people are going to stop reading physical newspapers and magazines.
What are they going to read?
But all those advertising dollars are going to go somewhere. They're going to go online.
Yes.
And Huffington Post is by far doing the best job of any new news publication of breaking ground on how you get traffic from Google, from social, from captivating people's interests. I mean, you go to Huffington Post and you do 10 page views a visit because you click on every single thing there. And I think that was an example of a purchase that will turn out really successful. I think overall, AOL needs to be able to say, hey, we're going to take this business that we've built based on subscription that was access to the internet and meaningfully be able to build other businesses. They're not in an easy position. I don't envy them.
Yeah, it's a very tough job.
Strategically, I think they're going in the right direction.
James, are you buying AOL stock or not at this point?
No, I think right now there's still a big cultural rift affecting what's going on there. And that's why you're seeing so many employees who are not part of the Huffington Post group leaving the company right now. And I think until they solve this cultural rift, it's hard to justify a $2 billion valuation. I mean, Huffington Post they bought for $300 million, but AOL itself is a $2 billion market cap company. And this was a Hail Mary pass to save the entire company. So I'm still not sure yet. I'm not necessarily a believer.
Huh, interesting. Well, this has been
Huffington Post might be good, but AOL might not be good.
Yeah, and so putting two things together, there's a lot of risk factors there, I guess, in integration. But hey, if they're having cultural problems and they're shutting stuff down, at least that means they're moving forward, right? Which we can't say for all AOL leadership, i.e. Bebo and stuff like that. It was a little bit of a cluster.
I think when you look back on this deal, if you look at eBay buying PayPal,
and
now eBay one day may become a PayPal company.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if AOL one day becomes a Huffington Post
company. It just becomes Huffington Post. Do you think that's going to happen, Brian? You think they're just going to rebrand it Huffington Post and it's going to be Huffington Post as public?
I joked about them doing that with TMZ years ago. It didn't happen. I mean, it is. I mean, you look at the $2 billion stock and when $2 billion market cap, and when somebody says, would you buy it? I think, well, there's nowhere to go but up. But that's not true. They can, still go down.
Thank you.
Yeah, like Huffington Post. Huffington Post would be worth $600 million and be a success, but AOL stock would still go down from there.
Very good points. What an amazing roundtable. We covered a lot of ground. Thank you, Brian Alvey, founder of and CEO of CrowdFusion.
Thank you.
And you can follow Brian at Brian Alvey, and his blog is brianalvey.com, right?
Yep.
And James Altucher, you can follow him at JALTUCHER. And you can read him at, what's your blog?
JamesAltucher.com.
There you go. Jason Nazar, CEO of DocStock. Check out DocStock.com and at Jason Nazar on Twitter, Nazar.
And just a props to the show. When I came here today, it was the first time in the last 2 years that there was actually a makeup crew. I was like, wow, this is getting big. And then I was the only person anybody gave makeup to.
Yeah, well, we brought them in for you.
What's going on?
We brought them in for you, Jason. No, I was late to the show, but Tyler does get makeup, but he's not.
Not that you would notice.
No, he's in Costa Rica, and our guests on the line, they don't.
I think we should do a mission to.
We don't need makeup.
Pull Tyler out of his insurgency. What do we do? Should we rope in there and save him?
No. He's fine. You want to go? Yeah, go save him.
Let's go save Tyler.
Somebody's got to save Tyler.
We're doing a mission to get you out.
I'm sorry. I sent Jason Nazar to Costa Rica on my jet, and he's saving him. Wow, how did Jason Nazar get down there all of a sudden? Thank you to Trada for sponsoring the program and being awesome, and thank you to @Mailchimp also. If you buy anything with Mailchimp and you spend any kind of money with them, forward your receipt to contests at This Weekend. So any receipt from Mailchimp, any amount of money, you spend $1, you spend $10, I will give you one of these This Week in Startups bags. You cannot buy them; they cost $25 a pop. I'm going to send you one for free. if you spend anything with @Mailchimp. And of course, if you want to have your commercial read live on the air, spend $3,000 with Trada and send us the receipt, and we will read your ad right as part of the Trada thing, and that you used it, and we'll tell you about your experience using it. Thanks to the crew. Thanks to Kieran and Carolyn. Great show notes. And we'll see you next time on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. But funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.